At our family anniversary dinner, my dad leaned in, napkin still in his hand. "Tell me about the $200,000 I gave you." "What did you do with it?" he asked. The room froze. Forks hung midair. My mother's smile cracked. My brother's face drained of color. My pulse hammered, but I didn't flinch. "What money?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. The chandelier buzzed overhead, the only sound between us. The night before the dinner, I was in my Seattle apartment, surrounded by fabric samples and half-finished marketing briefs. My life there was simple and predictable, quiet in the best way. I'd built it from nothing. My own apartment, my own career. No favors, no handouts. Maybe that's why my father, Robert Bennett, always said I reminded him of himself. He ran a small construction business in Portland. And every time we spoke, he ended with, "I'm proud of you, Lucy." He never said that to my brother. Jason Bennett was the golden child who never quite shined. 3 years older, charming and ambitious, but reckless. He'd burned through every business loan and still managed to land on his feet because our mother, Elaine, always caught him. Growing up, she called him my boy with big dreams. I was the responsible one, which really meant the one who cleaned up the mess. A week ago, Jason called. His voice was soft, too careful. "Hey, Dad's not feeling great. We might cancel the anniversary dinner." I was confused. He just emailed me about ordering wine. He hesitated. "He's been tired. I just think it's best if you don't come this time." The line went quiet after that. It didn't sit right. My father's 60th and their 40th anniversary was something he'd planned for months. He wouldn't skip it without calling me himself, so I called him. He answered on the second ring. "Lucy, you're still coming, right?" "Wait till you see the setup. Your mother's done." That's when I knew Jason was lying. When I arrived in Portland, the Bennett house looked exactly the same. Clean white siding, trimmed hedges, the smell of pine candles my mother always lit before guests arrived. She greeted me with a perfect smile and a hug that felt rehearsed. Jason appeared behind her, grinning too wide. "Lucy," he said, "you made it." I smiled, but something in his eyes flickered, nervous, watchful. For the first time in years, I felt like a guest in my own family's home. The next morning, I woke to bacon and the faint sound of my mother humming in the kitchen. The house was spotless, almost unnervingly so. Every photo frame gleamed, every candle was perfectly aligned. It wasn't hospitality, it was performance. At breakfast, Dad was cheerful, talking about a new deck he was building for a client. He looked healthy and strong. Nothing like the sick version Jason had described. Across from him, Jason barely touched his food. He scrolled his phone, pretending not to notice me watching. When Dad left to take a call, Mom leaned in. "Lucy, let's not bring up work or money tonight, okay? Your brother's been under stress." "Stress?" I asked. "From what?" She hesitated just long enough for the lie to show. "You know, Jason's just trying to figure things out. Don't make tonight tense." That's when I noticed her hands. Her nails, usually perfect, were chipped. It wasn't stress. It was worry. Later that afternoon, while setting the table, I heard Jason in the next room on the phone. His voice was low, sharp. "No, I told you I'll pay it next week. I have it handled. Don't call me again." He hung up the moment he saw me standing there. "What's that about?" I asked. "Business?" He said too quickly, stuffing his phone into his pocket. There was a thin stack of envelopes on the counter, payment receipts neatly folded. One of them was addressed to an investment firm I recognized. That firm handled my father's accounts, not Jason's. My stomach dropped. As guests began to arrive, I slipped away to my old room upstairs. The light from the hallway hit my phone. An email alert waited. It was a bank transfer confirmation, $200,000 completed. My name was on it. My heart pounded. The money came from a joint account, a name I hadn't seen in years. Jason Bennett. My hands went cold. I didn't know how yet, but I knew why he'd lied about the dinner. I knew the truth would come out at the table. I barely slept. The glow of my phone painted the walls while I scrolled through every transaction and confirmation email. The pattern was clear. Small test payments first, then one enormous transfer, all under my name. The signature was digital, but the access came from someone inside my family. At sunrise, I went downstairs. Mom was making coffee, humming like nothing was wrong. I placed my phone on the counter. "Mom, did you know about this?" I asked quietly. She looked up confused, or pretending to be. Know about what, honey? I turned the screen toward her. The $200,000 transaction glowed between us. Her face tightened, then softened. Lucy, please. She whispered that Jason was in trouble. It was supposed to be temporary. He said he'd put it back before anyone noticed. Before who noticed? I asked. Her sigh said everything. You wouldn't miss it, she said. That sentence landed harder than any slap. You wouldn't miss it. I picked up my phone and walked out before she could say another word. I drove to meet Aunt Marjorie, the only person in this family who never played favorites. Her diner smelled like burnt toast and coffee, comforting in its honesty. Marjorie didn't even look surprised when I told her. I figured as much, she said, sliding a folder across the table. He came here last month bragging about some investment deal. Paid for lunch with $100 bills. She'd kept receipts, payments, watches, hotel bookings, luxury purchases, all dated within the same week the money disappeared. She'd taken photos and sent them to Caroline Ross, Dad's lawyer, an old friend from college. Caroline called within minutes. Lucy, this isn't a misunderstanding. This is financial fraud. If your father thinks you took it, you need to clear your name fast. I smiled, a bitter kind of calm washing over me. I already had proof. That night, while Mom set the table and Jason poured wine, I sat at the far end with my phone and the folder, the same folder I show you now, ready. The dinner began like every family celebration. Too much wine, too many polite laughs, and just enough tension to choke on. The chandelier cast soft gold light across a feast my mother had curated like a magazine spread. Roasted salmon, lemon tart, silverware so polished it reflected our faces. Dad looked genuinely happy. His cheeks were pink and his laugh was loud. He reached across the table. Lucy, he said, pouring me a glass. I still can't believe you flew in just for this. I smiled and forced the words past the lump in my throat. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Jason sat across from me, tapping his thumb on the table, his smile too wide. Every so often he'd glance at Mom, and she'd give him a small nod, as if keeping time in some unspoken rhythm of secrets. For an hour it almost felt normal. Then Dad leaned forward, napkin still in his hand. His voice was calm but deliberate. Tell me, Lucy, he said. The $200,000 I gave you, what did you do with it? The laughter died midair. Forks hovered. My heart slammed, then stopped. What? I whispered. He didn't blink. The $200,000, I transferred it months ago. Your brother said you were using it for something private, but now I want to hear it from you. My mother's face went rigid. Jason's hand tightened around his wine glass. I never received that money, I said, steadying my voice. If you sent it, I didn't see a cent. Dad's brow furrowed. I have the confirmation, Lucy. Same account you used for the business fund. It was your name. I took a slow breath and forced calm over the storm in my chest. Maybe you should look closer at who else had access to it. Mom stiffened. Robert looked at her, confused. Why not? If there's a problem, we can fix it. Jason set his fork down. Dad, it's not a big deal. I can explain. His voice was too quick. Explain what? Dad cut him off. My eyes locked on Jason. The transfer you made using my name, I said. And the hotel bills that came right after? I unlocked my phone and slid the folder across the table toward him. Every transaction, the same account, the same timestamp, but authorized from Jason's IP address, receipts, payments, screenshots of his calls with the investment firm. Dad scrolled, his face draining of color. Jason, you did this, he said. Jason's voice cracked. Dad, please. It's not what you think. I borrowed it. I was going to pay it back. Borrowed? My father's voice rose, sharp and cold. You forged your sister's access and stole her money. Mom shot up from her chair. Robert, stop yelling. He made a mistake. A mistake? Dad snapped. Elaine hesitated, tears in her eyes. He was drowning in debt. I thought if Lucy never found out, no one would get hurt. I laughed, the sound bitter. You thought I'd never find out? You signed my name. You let him take everything. Jason stood, hands trembling. I was desperate, Lucy. I didn't mean to ruin anything. The guests were silent. No more chatter. No clinking glasses. Just the sound of my father's slow, furious breathing. He turned to my mother. You two planned this? He asked. Her whisper was small. It was for our family. He slammed his hand against the table. Plates rattled. No, Elaine. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't steal. Jason's voice shrank. Dad, don't do this. We can fix it. Dad didn't wait. He took out his phone and dialed. Yes, I need to report a theft. $200,000. My mother's scream was instant. Robert, stop. Don't do this to him. He didn't look at her. He did this to himself. Jason didn't fight when the police arrived. Their flashlights cut across the glass. Red and blue lights spun through the window. Mom begged, sobbing, clutching his arm, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. Dad signed the statement without a word. When he looked at me, there was no pride this time. Only heartbreak. Lucy, he said, voice rough. I'm sorry. I shook my head. You believed what they told you. You had every reason to. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away gently. You wanted to know what I did with your money, I said. I protected it from them. The officers led Jason out. Mom followed, shouting promises no one believed. The door slammed behind them and only silence remained. Aunt Marjorie came over and placed a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, she whispered. I looked down at the folder, the screen dimming. Maybe she was right. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a quiet, sharp justice. It sounded like silence. The weeks after that dinner felt unreal, like walking through a house that still smelled like smoke after the fire is gone. The headlines faded, but the whispers stayed. Dad handled everything through Caroline Ross, his lawyer. The charges were clear. Identity fraud, unauthorized transfer of funds. Jason avoided jail through a plea deal. The restitution order was firm. Pay back every cent or lose everything he owned. Mom stood beside him at every hearing, her face hollow, her hair unkempt for the first time in my life. When it was over, Dad called me into his office. The desk that used to hold his blueprints was covered in paperwork. I've rewritten my will, he said quietly. The company, the house, everything, it's yours. They'll get nothing. I wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Maybe it wasn't revenge. Maybe it was his way of saying sorry. By the end of the month, Jason had sold his car, his watches, even the designer furniture Mom had bragged about for years. They moved to a rented duplex on the edge of town. I heard about it from Aunt Marjorie, not from them. When I left for Seattle, Dad helped me load my bags into the car. The sky was gray and soft rain misted the driveway. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a single check, $800,000, the same amount he'd once meant for my future. You deserve your clean start, he said. Go build something you're proud of. 6 months later, I stood in front of my boutique in downtown Seattle, Harbor Line Studio. The sign still smelled of fresh paint. Inside, sunlight spilled across racks of tailored jackets and silk scarves. Each tag was handwritten with my initials. The $800,000 had become more than a business. It was a quiet reclamation of everything I'd lost. Dad visits sometimes, bringing coffee and that same proud half smile he used to give me when I was little. Aunt Marjorie says the store feels like closure. Maybe she's right. I haven't heard from Mom or Jason in months. Their restitution payments come in slowly, small mechanical reminders of what greed costs. Sometimes when I close up at night, I think about that dinner table, the hum of the chandelier, the silence after truth hit. Betrayal doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes it sharpens you. If you've ever had to defend your name against your own family, tell me your story in the comments.